Welcome back, everybody. I am going to be reviewing a really seminal work here today, 1984, by the great George Orwell. Many of you will know this book, whether you're a science fiction reader or just a reader in general. A lot of these high school classes, college classes, probably had you read this book, or at least assign you this book back in your school days. But this was one that I was very excited to reread because I had read it, I think, my senior year of high school. I could be wrong when it was. I read this, and I also read Fahrenheit 451 in high school. I had recollections of being shown Animal Farm in school, and reading this and some other really foundational works in high school. And I've always been a reader. I like books, and I've always liked books. High school was kind of, we read like Lord of the Flies, Grapes of Wrath. We read some of that kind of stuff, and that was interesting, and I'm glad I read it. But I was a much different reader and thinker than I am now. And um, I'm really glad I took the time to revisit this book and give it a slow burn, sit with it for a while, and take my time with it. Because this book, I think, I'm not going to say anything new for those of you who are looking for like a new angle on this book. There's not much that hasn't been said already that I can say about it. Um, it's an extremely timely piece of literature that I think that pretty much everybody should read and try to figure out what they think of it and how it applies to our modern times, because um, you know it's scary. It's a genuinely kind of horrific book in some ways. For those of you who don't know, I'll just give a little bit of backdrop to it, at least what I know about it. Orwell published this in 1949. It reads much more. It reads much older than that to me. Like, not old in the sense that it's outdated, or it's not written well and not modern, but it reads like very timeless. And I think because this book has such gravity around it, it makes you think that it's a lot older than it actually is. It's 75, 76 years old now. So published in 1949. Orwell was, gosh, I don't want to give you false information about Orwell, but I kind of glanced before recording this. I kind of refreshed my memory of him, and he wrote this to really speak on you know things going on in Great Britain. He lived in London, I believe, at the time, and experienced some, like, during the war and post-war, or I guess post-war. When he was writing this, the control and totalitarian government. He really was trying to shed light, I think, on the very negative effects that can have on a society and its health. Um, I think that, like I said, it's very eerie how similar some of the things in this book are, at least what he was trying to, like, write as far as satire, are like happening today. The thought police, the newspeak, the um, 2 + 2 = 5, those kinds of things that are really like sharp ways of like giving a word or a concept to what we're experiencing. But it's eerie how, and I think many of you will agree, how what's the word that I'm thinking of? Prescient that this book was. Uh, Orwell just had a way of really cutting through a lot of political leanings, whichever way that you want to identify, left, right, center, up, down, whatever, to just trying to shed light on why it's bad to control people down to this level. I think there needs to be some laws and some regulations, but I think Orwell does a great job here in this book, giving you a real disturbing picture of what the future could be like if we allow the government and the institutions in our world to just control everything. And, you know, I find the historical ties very interesting. That to Soviet Russia, to Nazi Germany. There's some historical like just things that I think that he draws from in this book that I think are very powerful, that I think will always be timely. And I'm not going to sit here as some, like, I'm 28. I'm not a, I'm not an, like, I'm not, I haven't been alive that long, but I'm also not a child anymore. I have a child. That's why this channel is called Dad Like Book. Uh, so I find myself in this strange middle ground of being weary of the future, scared of what might come, but also, um, you know, hopeful that maybe we can use things like this and of past experiences and past generations to avoid future catastrophes and things. And so I just think this book has a lot to say that I think no matter where you come from and what generation you'll be in, I find that this book probably in 100 years, 200 years will probably be very useful if it's not been um, you know, banned. I think it's really unique that books like this, Fahrenheit 451, books that speak on a larger kind of underground leadership that's um, shadow government, whatever you want to call it. Like that kind of stuff feels like you're almost like a conspiracy theorist or something if you buy into what it's trying to say. And maybe that's just my experience. Maybe that's the way that I assume people perceive readers of these kinds of books. Um, I'm probably off base there, but I'm trying to give you some understanding of, I guess, how I felt reading this book and how I feel now, having been reminded of some of the really powerful truths in this book of free thinking, of free speech, and like the ability to stand up to injustices and evils. And I don't know. I don't know how much more I can say on it without just droning on and on. I don't want to make this a super long video. I shot a video for War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, and I think it ended up being like a 15-minute review. And even I kind of found that to be long because I'm like, this book's been covered by everybody, or at least read by many people. I'm not saying anything new, but I just wanted to give you my brief thoughts on the power and um, just the ability to shed light on something that I think we all have kind of sitting in the back of our minds, this kind of strange, ominous fear of like, well, the government's always watching me. And you get in these funny, I don't know, discussions with other people like, yeah, they have all my information, so whatever. I think we are entering an age, the information age of like everything is just so rapid and we trust so easily to all these big corporations and governments that I fear for the next generation in being too oblivious to some of the things that Orwell hints at in this. I mean, he wrote it as satire, I believe he said it's satire, but he could see it coming to pass. And we're somewhere in the middle, of a free thinking society and this. And maybe we'll always be in the middle. Maybe we are destined to kind of fluctuate from more totalitarian to swing back towards less and whatnot over the centuries. But I just think it's really fascinating that in 76 years since this was written, we've gone through quite a few cultural shifts and I guess we've not had any. We've had significant world political things happen, world events happen, but I'm shooting this in it's late June 2025, and the world is at a place where it feels like it's kind of holding its breath a little bit. Um, I'm not trying to cast my opinion on any political situations going on, but it does. I feel the tension, and I think a lot of you probably do too. And maybe that's not a reason to read this book. Maybe you should go out and read something like Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury and just have a slice of summer for a minute. Forget about all the dark things that are happening in our world. But um, maybe if you really do want to be reminded of some of the real deep, dark things that are just kind of looming over us at times, go back to this book and give it a read. It is a very powerful read, and I'm very glad I read it. It's, you know, it's a 10 out of 10. It's timeless, and it's beautiful, and it's dark, and it's awful. It's all the things. And so I'll leave it there. I don't want to keep wasting your time saying stuff that most people have said about this book, like I said. But anyway, the other thing I was going to do real quick is show you, just because it's an Orwell, I found this pretty beat up hardcover by George Orwell called Down and Out in Paris and London. I found this at a Goodwill for $2. And I looked it up online, and I don't know if it's worth anything or if it's rare, but I believe it says first published in 1933, but it's a new edition in 1950. Right there. I hope it's in focus, or at least you can tell. But I looked it up online, and there's really not that many, if any, copies of this. And so I thought it was really cool. I wanted to show it to you. Let me know what you know, if you know anything about this book, because I think it's relatively rare, and I just think it's really cool. Goodwill for $2. It was. I went to the. I'll just tell this quick story, and then I'll be done. I was at a Goodwill. They didn't have a very big book selection, but I popped in and I thought I'll just see if they have anything good. I kind of scanned. Nothing but, you know, the typical stuff you find: the James Patterson, the cookbooks, the Sue Grafton. You know, you're just kind of like, there's no sci-fi here. There was one woman that was standing in kind of this corner on the bookshelf where I couldn't really see what was behind her, and I wasn't in a rush, but I wanted to hit multiple places that day when I was just on my way home, and so I was like, it doesn't look like there's anything here, but I do need to use the restroom, so I'll go, you know, real quick before I leave. Went to the restroom, came back, she was gone, so I was like, oh, I'll scope that little corner out, and lo and behold, I see this little spine peeking out, and I thought, that's pretty cool. There's a George Orwell. And I got to looking at it and thought, what have I stumbled upon here? So again, this might be a $50 book. It might be, you know, it might be several $100s, but it's a pretty cool find that I thought, and I've never read it. 1984 is the only book that I have read by Orwell, but yeah, I just thought this was cool to show off. So if you're at all interested in it, let me know. And I just want to know what it's about, what it is, the historical importance of it. But anyway, that'll make this video. I'm done talking about 1984, and I'm trying to think what is next on my list. I don't remember off the top of my head what the next book in my 25 book challenge was. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with me on this one, or listening to my thoughts on this one. Let me know what you think about 1984 in the comments. And yeah, talk to me about Orwell. He's a very important author and somebody that I want to know more about and read more of. So anyway, I've been Dad Like Book. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.